What if I told you that the lack of garden space, the tiny balcony, the concrete patio, or the postage stamp yard you have been calling too small for a fruit garden is actually perfect for some of the most productive, most delicious, and most rewarding fruit trees you could ever grow? What if containers are not a compromise but an advantage, giving you control, mobility, and harvests that rival anything a ground-planted orchard produces? Today I'm showing you 10 fruit trees that were specifically bred or naturally suited for container growing, ranked from excellent to absolutely extraordinary. Trees that will transform your small space into a productive fruit garden starting this season. Let us get into it. Number 10. Dwarf pomegranate, the Mediterranean beauty that fits anywhere. Starting at number 10, dwarf pomegranate varieties bring one of the most nutritionally celebrated fruits in the world into the smallest growing spaces imaginable. These compact plants, growing 3 to 4 feet in containers, produce full-sized, intensely flavorful fruits with the extraordinary antioxidant content that makes pomegranates a superfood staple. The jewel-like arils inside each fruit are as beautiful as they are healthy, and a single well-managed container tree produces 15 to 20 fruits per season once established. The ornamental value of pomegranate in a container is considerable beyond its fruit production. The glossy green leaves, the brilliant orange-red flowers that appear throughout summer, and the attractive branching structure make pomegranate one of the most decorative fruiting plants for patios and balconies. In mild climates, zones 8 through 11, pomegranate stays outside year-round. In colder zones, the container moves indoors to a cool, bright location for winter dormancy, then returns outside after the last frost. Choose a container at least 18 inches in diameter and depth with excellent drainage. Use a well-draining potting mix, never garden soil which compacts in containers and suffocates roots. Pomegranates tolerate drought well once established, but produce better fruit with consistent moisture during the growing season. Full sun, at least 6 hours daily, is essential for flowering and fruit set. Fertilize monthly during the growing season with a balanced, organic fertilizer. The combination of beauty, nutrition, and genuine container suitability makes dwarf pomegranate an excellent entry point to container fruit growing. Number 9. Fig, the ancient fruit that loves container life. At number 9, figs earn their position because they are one of the few fruit trees that genuinely prefer container growing in many climates. The root restriction that a container creates actually encourages earlier fruiting and often produces sweeter, more concentrated fruit than the same variety grown in the ground. Petit Negre and Chicago Hardy are two varieties specifically selected for container performance, compact growth habit, and reliable productivity in pots. Chicago Hardy is particularly valuable for gardeners in cold climates because the container allows you to move the tree into a protected location during winter, extending the viable growing range several zones beyond where figs normally survive outdoors. Even in Zone 6, where ground-planted figs would die, a container fig moved into an unheated garage or basement for winter dormancy returns to vigorous growth and full production the following spring. Petit Negre produces small, intensely sweet dark purple figs on a naturally compact plant that stays manageable in containers without aggressive pruning. The fruiting pattern of figs in containers is reliable and generous. A well-established container fig produces 2 crops annually in warm climates: the breba crop on old wood in early summer, and the main crop on new growth in late summer and autumn. Even a small 3-foot tree in a container produces 20 to 40 figs per season, enough to eat fresh, dry, preserve, and share. Use a container at least 20 inches in diameter, provide full sun, water consistently to prevent fruit drop during development, and fertilize monthly with a balanced fertilizer through the growing season. Figs reward container culture with a reliability that few other fruit trees match in pots. Number 8. Blueberries, the superfruit that thrives in containers. Blueberries, at number 8, represent one of the most naturally container-suited fruits because their specific soil requirement, acidic conditions with pH between 4.5 and 5.5, is easier to maintain in a container than in the ground where surrounding soil constantly influences the root zone. In containers filled with an acidic potting mix specifically formulated for blueberries, azaleas, and rhododendrons, you create the perfect growing environment and maintain it indefinitely with proper fertilization and water management. Highbush blueberry varieties bred for compact growth, including peach sorbet, jelly bean, and top hat, stay under 4 feet in containers and produce heavily relative to their size. A single mature container blueberry produces several pounds of fruit per season, and the prolonged ripening period means you harvest handfuls of fresh berries over weeks, rather than dealing with an overwhelming single harvest. The antioxidant content of blueberries, particularly the anthocyanins responsible for their deep blue color, makes them one of the most nutritionally valuable fruits you can grow. The ornamental value through 4 seasons is a bonus that most fruiting plants cannot match. Spring brings masses of small white bell-shaped flowers. Summer provides the ripening fruit. Autumn delivers brilliant red and orange foliage color. Even winter offers attractive red stems on deciduous varieties. Most blueberries are self-fertile but produce larger berries and heavier crops when cross-pollinated with another variety. So planting 2 different varieties in separate containers maximizes your harvest. Use containers at least 18 inches in diameter. Provide acidic fertilizer formulated for acid-loving plants, and water with rainwater or acidified tap water if your municipal water is alkaline. Blueberries in the right container conditions are genuinely one of the most reliable, most productive, and most nutritionally valuable container fruits available. Number 7. Meyer Lemon, the indoor-outdoor citrus classic. Meyer Lemon at number 7 is the citrus that made indoor container fruit growing a realistic aspiration for gardeners far from citrus-growing climates. This naturally compact citrus produces full-sized, thin-skinned, intensely aromatic lemons with a sweeter, less acidic flavor than standard grocery store lemons. The tree blooms multiple times per year, filling the surrounding space with one of the most intoxicating fragrances in all of horticulture. And a single container tree produces 20 to 50 fruits annually once mature. The greatest advantage of Meyer Lemon in containers is its tolerance of indoor growing conditions during winter in cold climates. Move the container indoors before the first frost to a bright south-facing window or under supplemental grow lights, and the tree continues growing, flowering, and even fruiting through winter, while outdoor gardens sit dormant. The ability to have fresh lemons in January from a tree growing in your living room is one of the genuine pleasures of container citrus growing that no amount of grocery store fruit can replicate. Use a large container, at least 20 inches in diameter, filled with a well-draining citrus-specific potting mix. Citrus roots need oxygen and cannot tolerate waterlogged soil that causes root rot. Water when the top 2 inches of soil are dry, and ensure the container drains freely after each watering. Feed monthly during the growing season with citrus-specific fertilizer that includes micronutrients, particularly iron, magnesium, and zinc, that citrus requires for healthy leaf color and fruit production. Provide maximum available light, both indoors and out. Meyer Lemon tolerates lower light than most other citrus, but still needs at least 6 to 8 hours daily for best production. The combination of indoor-outdoor versatility, continuous flowering fragrance, and year-round fruit production makes Meyer Lemon the container citrus that most beginners start with and most experienced growers never stop growing. Number 6. Dwarf Peaches. Summer flavor in a 2-foot tree. Dwarf peach varieties at number 6, particularly Bonanza and Eldorado, produce full-sized freestone peaches with outstanding flavor on naturally compact trees that stay under 5 feet in containers. The genetic compactness is not achieved through dwarfing rootstocks that can be unpredictable in containers, but through the tree's own naturally miniature growth habit, making these varieties genuinely reliable for long-term container culture. Bonanza is one of the most widely grown container peach varieties because it produces heavily even as a young tree, often setting fruit in its second year in a container. The peaches are medium-sized, 5 to 6 ounces, with classic yellow freestone flesh and excellent sweet tart flavor. Eldorado produces slightly later, extending the harvest season when planted alongside Bonanza, and offers similarly excellent fruit quality on a slightly larger plant that still remains container manageable with annual pruning. The chill hour requirement of these varieties, approximately 250 to 400 hours below 45 degrees Fahrenheit, makes them suitable for mild winter climates where standard peach varieties fail to fruit. For gardeners in zones 8 and 9 where traditional peach varieties struggle, these low-chill dwarfs provide reliable production where ground-planted trees would disappoint. In colder zones, the container moves into an unheated garage or shed for winter dormancy, protecting the flower buds from late frosts that destroy ground-planted peach crops regularly. Container size matters significantly for peaches. Use at least a 24-inch diameter container with excellent drainage. Feed with a balanced organic fertilizer monthly during the growing season. Prune annually in late winter to maintain an open center structure that allows light penetration throughout the canopy. Thin fruits after fruit, set to 4 to 6 inches apart, removing excess fruits to concentrate the tree's energy into developing full-sized, deeply flavored peaches rather than numerous small, disappointing ones. Fresh peaches from your balcony are worth every moment of the minimal care these compact trees require. Number 5. Pie cherries. The cold-hardy container superstars. Pie cherries at number 5, particularly the Romance series, including Romeo and Juliet, were specifically bred in Canada for extreme cold hardiness and naturally compact growth that makes them ideal for container culture. These are sour cherries, the type used for pies, preserves, and cooking rather than fresh eating, but their productivity in containers and their extraordinary cold tolerance, surviving temperatures below -40 degrees Fahrenheit, make them valuable far beyond their culinary applications. Romeo produces dark red, almost black cherries on a naturally dwarf plant that stays under 8 feet in containers, and it is self-fertile, requiring no pollinator to produce heavy crops. Juliet produces bright red cherries on a similarly compact tree and benefits from cross-pollination with Romeo, making the two varieties natural companions in a container orchard. A mature container pie cherry produces 15 to 20 pounds of fruit per season, more than enough for pies, jams, and freezing with surplus to share. The spring flower display alone justifies growing container cherries even without considering the fruit harvest. The trees cover themselves in white blossoms so densely that the foliage disappears beneath the flowers for 2 weeks in early spring, creating one of the most spectacular ornamental displays available from any fruiting tree. The compact size and the container mobility mean you position this display exactly where you want it, on a patio, beside an entrance, or in a prominent location where it becomes a seasonal focal point. Container requirements are substantial. Use at least a 24-inch diameter container with excellent drainage. Cherries need consistent moisture during fruit development, but cannot tolerate waterlogged roots, making drainage critical. Provide full sun and feed monthly during the growing season with balanced organic fertilizer. Protect ripening fruit from birds with netting or harvest will be minimal. The combination of extreme hardiness, reliable self-fertile production, spectacular spring bloom, and genuine container suitability makes pie cherries one of the most underappreciated container fruit options for northern gardeners. Number 4. Columnar apples. The space-saving revolution. Columnar apples at number 4 represent a genuine breakthrough in container fruit growing because they grow as a single vertical column with fruiting spurs directly on the main stem rather than on spreading lateral branches. Varieties like North Pole and Golden Sentinel stay under 8 feet tall and only 2 feet wide at maturity, making them genuinely suited to the narrowest balconies and smallest patios where standard apple trees would be completely impractical. The fruit production from columnar apples is remarkable considering their compact form. A mature columnar apple in a container produces 15 to 30 full-sized apples per season, fruiting along the entire length of the central stem from ground level to the top. The apples are genuine eating quality, crisp, sweet, and flavorful, not the small disappointing fruits that some compact fruit trees produce. North Pole produces apples similar to Macintosh in flavor and texture. Golden Sentinel produces yellow apples with a flavor profile between Golden Delicious and Gala. Most columnar apples are not self-fertile and require cross-pollination with another apple variety flowering at the same time. The solution in container growing is planting 2 different columnar varieties, which occupies the same space that a single standard apple tree would require in the ground, while providing both cross-pollination and extended harvest through variety selection. The columnar form also makes winter protection in cold climates practical. Move the containers against a south-facing wall or into an unheated garage during the coldest months, protecting the flower buds that determine next season's crop. Use containers at least 24 inches in diameter and depth. Apples are heavy feeders, requiring monthly fertilization during the growing season. Water consistently, particularly during fruit development, as irregular watering causes fruit drop and poor fruit quality. Thin fruits after fruit set to 1 apple per cluster, spacing the remaining apples 6 inches apart along the stem. This thinning concentrates the tree's energy into developing full-sized apples rather than numerous small ones. For productive apple growing in impossibly small spaces, columnar varieties are genuinely the only realistic option. Number 3. Strawberries. The fastest return on investment. Strawberries at number 3 might surprise people expecting only trees on this list, but the productivity of strawberries in containers and the speed with which they begin producing, often the same season as planting, makes them essential in any container fruit garden. A single large container or hanging basket planted with 6 to 8 strawberry plants produces several pounds of fruit over an extended season, and the vertical growing options, including hanging baskets, tower planters, and wall-mounted pockets, make strawberries the most space-efficient fruit on this entire list. June-bearing strawberry varieties produce a concentrated harvest over 2 to 3 weeks in late spring or early summer, delivering the large, intensely flavored berries ideal for preserving and freezing. Ever-bearing varieties produce smaller flushes continuously from spring through autumn, providing fresh berries for eating over months, rather than overwhelming you with a single harvest. Day-neutral varieties blur the line between the two, producing reasonably sized berries continuously regardless of day length. Choose your variety type based on whether you want a concentrated harvest for preserving or continuous small harvests for fresh eating. The ornamental value of strawberries in decorative containers is considerable. The white flowers, the developing green fruits, the ripe red berries, and the attractive foliage create a display that is simultaneously productive and beautiful. Hanging baskets overflowing with ripening strawberries transform a bare wall or empty vertical space into a productive element of the garden. Tower planters stacked 5 to 6 feet high produce extraordinary quantities of fruit from a footprint barely larger than a single pot. Use a well-draining potting mix, never garden soil which compacts and suffocates strawberry roots. Feed every 2 weeks during the growing season with a balanced liquid fertilizer. Remove runners as they develop unless you want to propagate new plants, as runner production reduces fruiting on the main plant. Replace plants every 2 to 3 years as productivity declines with age. The immediate gratification of harvesting fruit within months of planting makes strawberries the gateway to container fruit growing that hooks beginners on the possibilities. Number 2. Avocado. The tropical statement tree with edible rewards. Avocado at number 2, particularly dwarf varieties like Wurtz and Little Cotto, brings the most dramatic tropical aesthetic of any container fruit tree alongside the genuine possibility of harvesting your own avocados in climates where that seems impossible. These varieties were specifically bred for container culture, staying under 10 feet with pruning and producing full-sized, buttery avocados on compact trees that thrive in large containers on sunny patios in zones 9 through 11 and can winter indoors in marginally colder zones. Wurtz, also called Little Cotto, is a naturally dwarf Mexican-type avocado that produces medium-sized fruits with thin skin and rich, nutty flavor. It is self-fertile, requiring no pollinator, and begins producing within 3 to 4 years in a container. The tree tolerates cooler temperatures than most avocado varieties, surviving brief light frosts that would damage more tender types. Little Cotto is similar in habit and hardiness, offering slightly different fruit characteristics and harvest timing that extends the season when both varieties are grown. The container requirements for avocado are substantial. Use the largest container practical, at least 24 to 30 inches in diameter, as root space directly correlates with fruit production. Use a fast-draining cactus or palm potting mix, as avocados cannot tolerate wet roots and quickly develop root rot in standard potting soil that stays moist. Water deeply when the top few inches of soil are dry. Then allow the soil to dry partially before watering again. Feed monthly during the growing season with citrus or avocado-specific fertilizer. The visual presence of a container avocado on a patio is genuinely extraordinary. The large, glossy, deep green leaves create a lush tropical atmosphere that transforms any outdoor space. In cold winter climates, moving a large avocado container indoors is challenging but achievable, with a furniture dolly and adequate indoor light from south-facing windows or supplemental grow lights. The reward of harvesting avocados from a tree you grew in a container on your balcony is one of the most satisfying achievements in container fruit growing, and worth every effort required to make it happen. Number 1. Dwarf banana. The fastest growing, most dramatic container fruit. And at number 1, dwarf banana varieties, particularly dwarf Cavendish and super dwarf, earn the top position because they combine the fastest growth, the most dramatic visual presence, and genuine reliable fruit production in containers in ways that no other plant on this list matches. A dwarf banana planted in spring grows visibly every day through summer, adding inches per week, and produces its first fruit within 18 months to 2 years, faster than almost any other fruit tree from planting to harvest. Dwarf Cavendish grows 6 to 8 feet in containers and produces full-size banana hands containing 10 to 15 individual bananas that ripen to the familiar yellow grocery store appearance, but with sweeter, more complex flavor than anything shipped thousands of miles. Super Dwarf stays under 4 feet, making it suitable for the smallest spaces and easiest winter indoor relocation, and produces smaller but equally flavorful banana clusters. Both varieties are genuinely productive in containers when their requirements are met. The requirements are specific but not difficult. Bananas need massive amounts of water during active growth, enough that daily watering in summer is often necessary in hot climates. They are heavy feeders requiring weekly fertilization with a high nitrogen formula during the growing season. They demand full sun at least 8 hours daily and warmth, thriving in temperatures above 80 degrees Fahrenheit and suffering below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. In warm climates, zones 9 through 11, they stay outside year-round. In colder zones, they move indoors to the warmest, brightest location available, often a sunroom or greenhouse, where they continue growing slowly through winter. The visual drama of a banana plant in a large container is unmatched by any other plant in this list or arguably in any container garden. The enormous paddle-shaped leaves, the rapid vertical growth, the developing flower stalk with its deep purple bracts, and eventually, the hanging cluster of developing bananas create a genuinely tropical spectacle that stops every visitor and generates questions from every neighbor. The harvest of bananas from a plant you grew in a container is one of the most improbable and most satisfying achievements in all of container gardening. The moment when you realize that space limitations are not obstacles, but simply parameters that creativity and the right plant selection overcome completely. If this list just convinced you that your balcony, your patio, or your small yard can produce real fruit in quantities that matter, smash that like button right now and help this reach everyone who thinks they need acres to grow food. Drop a comment and tell me which container fruit tree you are starting with. Are you going fast with strawberries and bananas? Are you going classic with Meyer lemon and figs? Are you surprised by Columnar apples and container cherries? I read every comment, and I want to know what your container fruit garden looks like next season. Subscribe and ring the notification bell because every week we show you how to grow more food in less space than you ever thought possible. See you in the next one.